Hey, what's up, everyone? This evening, we want to welcome a legend to the show. Amazing musician and songwriter. He's been in the music game for 40 years, and he has done so much for music and entertainment. Also, join his Facebook group, Cyber Open Mic, where he posts great music on there, as well as posting on my Facebook Strange Brew Media group. Please show some love for Mr. David Shepherd Grossman. How you doing, man?
I'm doing good, man. I'm trying to get in the picture here, in the frame. Okay.
Okay, yeah.
It's so weird, It's so different from live stuff. But okay.
Yeah, absolutely, right.
On the couch next to you, or whatever,
Yeah, this is the future, though. Now I think.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah, definitely. Okay, so describe who David is and tell everybody, where you from and about you.
Well, I'm a musician, a singer-songwriter, kind of more of just an artist. I love the arts, and everything from poetry to jazz to movies. I mean, anything that's artistic, modern pop art. Doesn't matter what kind. I was born in San Francisco at Mount Zion Hospital in 1966, across the street from Winterland.
Oh, wow.
During very close to the Summer of Love. So I was like, all that stuff was. It was sort of the psychedelic, or maybe it was just maybe you call it psychedelic music, but some people just call it psycho music. Leave the delic off, psychodelic, psycho music. That psycho music those hippies listen to. Yeah, I love that stuff.
That music was awesome, though, man. I mean,
it was
my parents listened to a lot of that, so
awesome.
Just crazy. But how was the music scene there?
San Francisco was amazing. Even in the 80s when I started playing out about 1980 at the Gorilla Grotto, which was a club that it was a coffee house bookstore, and it had an adult playpen in the back. That's what they called it, an adult playpen with these wooden bars that you could slip right it through. There was all these pillows and stuff, and so it had books everywhere. You could order coffee. There were little tables and stuff so you could hang out. And then in the very back, there was nothing but these big bars. And if you went in there, it was a giant pillow fight. It was like kind of the pillow version of those little plastic balls that you see at McDonald's. But for adults, it was just for adults who just wanted to let loose, and hit each other with pillows. Hang out in a safe. It was just a really fun place. That was the first place I played live. I was 14. My first place that I played, where I got paid to play, was the Ghirardelli Wine Cellar in San Francisco, and I got paid $10 for a 2-hour set.
Oh wow!
I was making $3.10 an hour at the ice cream parlor, so that was like a raise, So I was like, wow, I love playing music even more than I like scooping and stealing ice cream.
That's love, man. To get paid to do what you love doing.
Absolutely.
Definitely. So, when did you know music was something that you really wanted to do?
I think it was fortunate in that I think the very earliest inclinations that I can remember of like a star that I was really enamored with, and this was just like at 4 years old or 5 years old, it was like David Cassidy from the Partridge Family. I know that sounds strange, but I mean, as a 4-year-old, that was a pretty cool, I got all their albums, and I memorized like the first Partridge Family album. There was like, I could feel your heartbeat, and you never even said a word. David Cassidy had that.
You sound just like him.
Oh, he had he had that. I feel your heartbeat, and he never even said a word. He had that perfect, really that teen idol voice. I guess.
His brother was a big sensation too. A little bit.
Sean.
Yeah.
Dukes of Hazzard, was that it?
I don't know if it was. It was Nancy Drew.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, it was Hardy Boys.
Okay, yeah. Sean Cassidy had it.
I'm a '70s baby. I'm a '70s baby. So.
Awesome. Yeah, no, I was around too, but I was like. I got to meet David Cassidy down here just a block and a half away at this little tiny bar called the Oyster House, where I spent about 10 years.
One day. That's very cool. Wow, you got a chance to meet him.
Right before he died. Yeah, right before he died. And he sang through my PA, which was like, it was just, I couldn't believe what was happening, Took a picture with my sister. I'll send you the picture. That's kind of
surreal. That had to have been surreal as hell.
Oh, it was, yeah. I've had encounters that, I'm just, I can't believe it happened to me, from just being in music my whole life, and entertainment and stuff. Yeah.
Yeah, but look at where you at. You out there where it's at. You are. It's all
Well,
there.
it's just you just gotta keep, the focus was never to meet celebrities and stuff. It wasn't
Uh-huh.
that, but
Uh-huh.
because I was so young when I started, I was like 6 or 7, I think. I could barely get my hand around
Ooh,
the guitar, you know what I mean? But
ooh,
I was
wow.
by 10 years old. That was when I did my first recordings of my own songs that I had written. They were
Okay.
like, it was me trying to sound like Cat Stevens as a 10-year-old. And they're on my Bandcamp page, by the way. If you go to bandcamp.com and look me up,
Oh,
David,
I've seen it. Yeah, yeah.
and
Trust
there's
me.
stuff
I've
from,
done my research on you.
yeah, 1977. Well, everybody else, I'm just saying, it's all there,
Yeah,
from
yeah.
1977 till now.
Oh,
Ugh,
wow. Yeah, but that's
a lot of
pretty
time.
cool though. You can go back and look at how you sounded then and how you progressed over the years, and that's pretty cool. But explain the very first song that you wrote and how it inspired you to write more songs.
Well, the very first song I wrote was already written. So I wrote a song called Where Did All the Flowers Go?"
Okay.
And I sang it to my mom, and who said, "Well, yeah, there's already a song called Where Have All the Flowers Gone? You know that, right?" I did not know that. So that kind of hindered my writing for about, a few weeks or whatever it was. And then my first song that I actually wrote that people kind of dug and that I can remember was a song called "There Was a Man I Once Knew Who Said to Say Goodbye." And it was about a captain on a ship who was leaving. And it was sort of, and the whole chorus was saying goodbye. And I sang it at camp, summer camp. And everybody got into it. We used to sing it around the campfire. And then I wrote a song called Time Zone, and we did a TV show. The camp liked it so much, they got me on a Spanish television station with a bunch of the counselors, and we did it. We taped it. We went to San Francisco and taped the song with the camp counselors and me. I never saw the footage. I don't know where it is. I don't know if it exists. But there's a song with, and I must have been like maybe 11 or 12 years old. That's the very first TV I ever did.
Oh,
This was
wow.
before I even did any gigs. This is my very first thing, But I barely have memory of it. But yeah, I do recall that, and it was really interesting to go into a studio, a TV studio at that age. I'd been in one before because I was on Romper Room.
Oh,
That
okay.
was,
Yeah.
that was
Yeah.
my first television experience. Was a kid on Romper Room.
That is awesome, man.
Yeah.
Explain how you started. Explain how you started working with other musicians and what influences they had on your music, especially in those early days.
Well, the very first musicians that I think I worked with, as far as projects go, were guys from high school that I met. And I was a freshman in high school when I started doing my first recordings, and I was going to an all-boys Jesuit school in San Francisco called St. Ignatius College Preparatory.
Wow.
And we had Mal Kuzenberry on bass. He was a junior, I think. I was a freshman, and then I think Mark Garay was on drums, and he was, I think, a sophomore. But everybody was older than me, and they were all, but they were great. And then when I was working with Neil J. Young as a producer, another Neil Young from Canada who happened to be a musician, but he had an accident and ended up quadriplegic. So when I met him, he was in a wheelchair, but he had all the knowledge and the heart and everything to do music still. So it was, our getting together was sort of a blessing because I needed a place to learn, and he really just needed to reinvent himself as a quadriplegic because his problem was he jumped off he was diving in the ocean and along the Pacific coast, and he hit his head on a cement slab that was like ruins from World War II. Those forts that they built. They crumbled and stuff and fell into the ocean. So when he jumped in, he hit his head on that, came out a quadriplegic. And I met him like just maybe a year later. So he was rehabilitating. I was just 14, 15 years old, and he introduced me to a lot of local pro musicians. And they were, so like I would or somebody else would pay for those guys to come in. But like I said, I think, it's like, it was interesting because sometimes the guys from school were just as good, if not better, than the pros.
Okay. Well, yeah, that's it's always like that, The independent artists, they always, put their heart and soul into it, because once you're up there, you're there, and you don't care no more. I hate to say it, but sometimes it's like some of the mainstream artists, they get so big until it's like they forget about the music and the love of it. And you know,
Right,
the
right.
artists,
I never had that problem of getting too
yeah.
big for much, except for more of my clothes.
Oh.
That's too big for my clothes a few times, but other than that, I'm trying to go down. I feel like the
No,
great pumpkin in this thing.
you pretty good. Don't worry about it. No worries. You got some great stories from back in those days, like doing shows in San Francisco, stuff like that. Speak a little bit on how it was then and what those experiences were really like and how they shaped and molded.
Well, my favorite experiences from the early days was 1981. I was doing a talent showcase. It was like a kind of a competition, I guess, at the very famous I guess they call it the boarding house in San Francisco. The boarding house in San Francisco is where Steve Martin did "Let's Get Small."
Oh wow.
Famous club. Okay, I mean, so many people performed there,
Uh-huh.
and it was really like the Troubadour is to L.A.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
That was the Troubadour, San Francisco at the time,
Oh.
and I got there at the end of it, But I'm there in 1981. I'm like 16 years old, and I just finished my song. And I'm wearing a little cowboy hat. I remember it sounds so stupid now. I think about it, but so then I get off stage, and who's there? But freaking Mork from Mork and Mindy, Robin Williams, is sitting
Ooh.
right there, and he's going up on stage, just
Wow.
impromptu. I mean, we didn't know he was coming, but he was apparently friends with the owner, and
That's
David.
amazing.
Yeah, so he did 20 minutes of the funniest stuff I ever saw in my life. I was laughing so hard. I mean, I was on the floor laughing. And then backstage, I'm just me and him, because I'm putting my guitar away and stuff, and he
Wow,
comes back
you were
there.
backstage? That's
Yeah.
amazing.
Well, yeah, because
Oh,
I was part of the talent. I was part of the entertainment that night. The lineup.
oh
It was the
man.
finals for the talent show. So he
Okay.
just showed up and goes on. And afterwards, I'm putting my guitar away, and he comes back, and I go, "Wow, you're the king." I turn around, I go, "You're the king." That's all that came out of my mouth. And all of a sudden, he goes, "The king," and he starts running around like this, and he did it like this
Oh
show for me, and I was like, "What is going on here? I'm the only one in the room, and Robin Williams is doing a show just for me."
man.
He's the most. I'm not the only one he did that to. I mean, Norm Macdonald has stories about when he met him.
Uh-huh.
He was talking to somebody on the phone apparently to open for Robin. Really nervous about it because he of
Wow.
course knew Robin was going to be there because he was opening, and he never met Robin before. And Robin comes in and starts acting like a tailor while he's on the phone. Norm's on the phone. Norm Macdonald, hey, and Robin comes up and starts measuring his legs and stuff. You'll
Wow.
size. You'll say there's an Italian tailor. I guess. But anyway, it's just I mean, and so yeah, he was the most generous guy with his talent I think ever. Anyone that ever existed. I don't know. I mean, he was so
Wow.
generous with his talent, Robin Williams.
Wow, that's a beautiful thing, man. Um, Last time we talked, you were telling me about some of the other great legendary artists, that you had worked with, and it was so amazing because it was some of the artists that I had grew up listening to as a kid. Tell the world a little bit about those artists and your experiences working in the studio as well as on stage with them.
One of the first people that I met that I didn't even know he'd done his history or anything, but his name was David Ray.
Okay.
He's also left us, unfortunately, but years ago.
Oh,
But
wow. Sorry.
David Ray was, well, most of these guys have, but Robin,
Oh.
David,
Uh-huh.
it's getting up. We're getting up there. I am anyway. David Ray worked with Ian and Sylvia, Gordon Lightfoot. He's from Canada. He was a
Yeah, I
great.
know him. I know his music. Yeah.
Oh wow, yeah, yes. You have to be kind of in the know because he was like he was a
surprised
studio. Yeah, he had one leg. He'd been in an accident or something, but he could play guitar like nobody's business and finger pick. He was just the finest finger picker. I think maybe finger picking that. Well, I don't know. I've met Tommy Emmanuel, and he's probably just as good.
Yeah.
He's up there with that guy. So
Okay.
anyway, so finger picking wise, and David Ray, he played on one of my songs called Outlaw Hobo, which I'm so grateful for because he just did that for me, and he and Neil ended up being really good friends towards the end there, and they, David lived with Neil J. Young, the one in the wheelchair.
Okay.
Introduced them through, I got him to come up and do the song, and then he started living up there, and canyon where
Wow.
the studio was. Yeah, it was really cool. So yeah, that was one of the first things. I think I told you about once when I opened for Clarence Clemens.
Yeah, yeah, you did. You did. That was awesome.
Yeah, Clarence Clemens, man, I couldn't believe it. It was at Sweetwater in Mill Valley, probably 1989, maybe. Uh,
Wow.
and Small club, you know. This is when Bruce Springsteen had like gotten rid of the E Street Band. He was doing Tunnel of Love and all that stuff with the
Oh yeah.
L.A.
I
Yeah, he
remember that
stopped. He
all
just
of
took a
that.
break. He took a break. Springsteen did. So everybody was in their own thing and doing their own thing. And Clarence had his own band, and I opened for his band, and he was so cool, man. He like afterwards, my friend and I were Ann Reed, who sounds like Joni Mitchell incarnate. I mean, she's like,
Oh man, Mitchell was one of my favorite artists, man. She helped me get through a lot listening to her music.
I wish Ann Reed was still playing music, but she does have a CD out, and maybe we can get it. I mean, I'll try to get. I don't know. She's not doesn't have an online presence or anything. She got married, and you know she just did other things with her life. You know,
Right.
it's really hard for a lot of artists, you know, because I mean I've known so many incredible artists who stopped doing it
Oh
because
yeah, yeah, yeah.
they couldn't do it anymore. You know, it's like you put all your heart and soul, especially the true artists. You know,
Hmm.
the ones that aren't looking for the carrot, but never. They don't even get that. They don't. What happens is you end up going emotionally bankrupt. I think. You know, you
Yeah.
put your heart and soul into this art, and then and with absolutely, I mean, people won't even listen to it. You know, I have a joke that it's like if there's a song on the internet, no one ever clicks on it. Does it make a sound?
Oh yeah. Well, yeah. You know, absolutely.
The tree in the forest thing, you know, if the tree, that's where it comes from, you know, if the tree falls in the forest and no one's there to hear it, does it make a sound?
Right.
That sounds like a deep question, but of course it makes a sound. What the most narcissistic, stupid question is that? Of course it's going to make a sound. Just because you're not there to hear it doesn't mean it doesn't make a sound, you know? It's like, but people think that's like a deep question, you know?
Right.
That's why I think it's funny to say, you know, if a song's on the internet, no one ever clicks on it. Does it make a
Right.
sound?
Yeah.
Well, no, it doesn't. Not to the person. You know, you're not going to hear it if you don't click on it. That's all I'm saying. There are answers to these deep questions that are very simple.
Yeah, yeah. Some people don't hear them though. It's right there in front of them. They don't always see it, you know.
Yeah.
But okay. Now I'm gonna ask you two questions in one. The first one is, who is your biggest music influence? And the second one is, who inspires you musically now? Like, what artists are you really engulfed in and that you really have respect for now that's making music?
Well, I think, you know, as far as the people in the retail music world, of course, the Beatles were one of the best. I mean, I think after I got the chronological, it's not chronologically sounding right, but after the Partridge Family, man, I got into the Beatles. Sergeant Pepper's. Somebody gave me my cousin Joey gave me Sergeant Pepper's. I think it was him, yeah. And
Okay.
and anyway, it changed my whole trip. You know, I mean, obviously,
Wow.
I went from David Cassidy to John Lennon and Paul
Yeah,
McCartney. And
I was
but,
definitely a big fan of John Lennon, man. More so than the Beatles material, himself, his stuff. You know, I really.
well, you know, the Beatles really kind of own the word love. You know, I mean, everything they had to do, most of everything they had was about love, and
Right,
and
right.
it took me a while to really of listening to them to conceptualize how they. I don't even think they did it on purpose. I think that's where their heads were at. It's just amazing. You know, they are to the word love what Prince is to the color
To the
purple.
color purple.
As far as influences go, there were Cat Stevens, Neil Young, Paul Simon, James Taylor,
Oh, okay, okay.
Tom Waits. I just want to get all those because those were my main influences of commercially. But I was going out and meeting all these other artists, and they influenced me way more
Wow.
than you know because I was living with you know in and out with these people. You know, I met Billy Roberts who wrote the song "Hey Joe." You
Okay.
know, when I was 15 years old, he took me out one night, 2 in the morning, to a restaurant in El Cerrito,
Oh,
and
wow.
I think it was Sambo's, which is like a Denny's with a racist name or something. I don't know what the hell it was, but it was an old restaurant. There was a whole chain of them. I don't know. That's where he took me, and he was telling me about Hendrix, and
Okay.
we had pancakes and stuff. That was like a member, you know. So he influenced me. Skip Henderson, who's still around, thank God. He influenced. He was like a sea chanty guy, a folk singing guy in San Francisco. Uh, then later on, Ira Marlowe, who's like
Oh man, he is hell of a songwriter.
Yeah, he's the most creative,
He's somebody I
prolifically
definitely got to interview.
consistent. What was that?
He's somebody I definitely got to interview.
Yeah, yeah. Oh, yeah. He's got some great stories, you know. And that guy is,
Yes,
like I said,
indeed.
the most prolific and consistently good. Always
Hmm.
topping himself, you know.
Hmm.
I've known him 35 years or whatever, 30 years.
Ooh, that's a
The
long
guy,
time.
yeah,
Wow.
he's always. I mean, he's just amazing. Yeah,
Yeah, his
and
songwriting is definitely brilliant.
yeah, it's different. I mean, it's not only he's. I don't know why he hasn't like. There are a lot of artists like that. Dan
Hmm.
Byrne, Martin Sexton. They're a little bit,
Hmm.
you know, they're a little up the level of Ira even. But I mean, they're
Right. But they know.
comparatively speaking to
They're all,
their talent. I know
these are
why
all brilliant guys. Yeah.
aren't they as known as the Beatles or Bob Dylan or you know? I don't get it, you know. But
Hmm.
I mean, when they started out, now I understand why. Because there's never going to be anything like that again. Because no one's attention is all focused on three networks. You know,
Right.
we have a zillion different people
Yeah.
looking at a million different things. You know,
Yeah.
from you know, there's
Yeah.
thousands of channels, thousands.
Hmm.
Of, so there's nobody. You know, there's nothing that's going to be like you know everybody's focused on one person. Like you
Yeah.
know,
It's
like
so
when
much
Robin
going
played.
on. Yeah. It's the world is so flooded with everything until it's just it's really not like it used to be. You
In
focus
some ways it's
focus in
better,
on
in
one
some ways
album,
it's
it changes
worse,
the
you
world.
know. Yeah, in some ways it's better, in some ways it's worse. We're all interconnected now,
Hmm.
you know, which
That's
is
that's
kind of
probably the
cool.
beauty of it. Yeah.
That's the cool part. Yeah, I like that. I
Yeah.
like that about it. But what I don't, you know, the other thing is all information is equal.
Hmm.
So whether it's, you know, whether it's right or wrong. I mean, I just put up a picture of the Earth from Mars, and my question was, what shape do you see? Because I have to do that because there's not a lot of people that think it's round anymore. You know, it's like
Yeah.
what the. I mean, if we have to argue about that, there's no hope. You know, I mean, we're
Yeah.
arguing about the shape of the planet at this point, and
That's
you know,
that's another subject right there.
yeah, space
Definitely.
deniers. Yeah, forget it. Let's not go there. No, but back to the influence. Tim Daw from he had an album called Penrod
Okay.
that came out, and he was the first guy to hire me because he was a huge influence. I wrote songs with him. Will Bluefield, Grant Baldwin, all these songwriters, and they're still some of them are still around. And you know, I mean, I've been covering their songs recently since the pandemic. You know, because I mean, there's so many of them. David Sobel is an
Right.
amazing songwriter, but he quit. You know, I just did like eight
Wow.
of his
Yeah.
songs this year because I just loved
That's
it so
deep.
much.
Hmm.
He quit years ago though, and Mario DeCio is building guitars. He's a guitar builder now, but he used to write songs. He still does occasionally, I guess.
Hmm.
There's just so many guys that influenced me, you know, and in such a positive way. You know, it's just
Wow.
Mickey Newberry was one of the biggest, and I opened for him. He wrote the song "Just Dropped In" to see what condition my condition was in. That was a
Okay.
big hit for Kenny Rogers in the first edition.
Hmm.
He wrote songs. He was one of the best songwriters of the '50s and '60s,
Hmm.
and you know he holds a Guinness record for having more songs on the charts at the same time, different charts in
Right.
1965 or something. Anyway, yeah, I opened for him. And I'm sitting down backstage and I'm tuning to my harmonica. I've never met him before. I don't know how he sounds. I don't know who he is. And he goes, "What's that you're tuning to there?" I go, "Oh, I'm tuning to my harmonica." He goes, "You don't have an electric tuner?" I go, "No, I don't have an electric tuner. You have my electric tuner." And he gave me a brand new Boss electric tuner that he had.
Wow.
Just gave it to me. And then he came up and did something that opening acts never used to do, not in my life, not in my experience. He
Okay.
watched my whole set.
Oh
He
wow.
watched my whole set. And then after the show, he gave me his phone number. We changed phone numbers, and he called me every 4 to 6 months until 2002 when he died from
Wow.
1988. And we were
Wow.
friends. He used to sing me songs he was working on over the phone. I'd get chills. I
Oh,
even
that's pretty
just
deep,
tape.
man.
Oh, I mean, it was amazing. You know, it's like people like that. You know, they keep it going. You know.
You got tons of influences, definitely. But
Oh yeah.
all right, which brings me to my next question now. What has been your biggest music struggles?
Probably getting just because I'm so focused, you know, I don't really focus on the carrot at the end of the stick ever. I just don't even look at that anymore. I used to when I was younger. I used to think, okay, this album's good because I would change things for record companies. You know, my first album I put out in '84, and Carol Childs from Geffen Records, who was actually I didn't know this at the time, but she was Bob Dylan's girlfriend.
Oh
But
wow.
anyway, yeah, I know. I learned that years later.
Yeah.
But she told me all I had to do was get a little more modern in my approach,
Oh wow.
and they would sign me. So I went back in the studio, saved up all my money, and got Lindrums and DX7s, everything that was
Oh,
state of the
wow.
art at the time, you know.
Everything Prince used for 1999 and Purple Rain, and you know, he made that Lynn drum famous.
Oh yeah. Well, I didn't know how to use
Seven,
any of that stuff
he,
because I was
he
just
really he
art.
really made the DX7 famous.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Well, Prince was. I mean, he was in a league all his own. There was one guy that I wish was still around here right now. I could pick one to come back. It'd probably be him.
Oh, absolutely. I wish I could have met him, man.
Me too. Yeah.
I took his death kind of hard.
Me too. Yeah, I did too.
You know.
Yeah. It's still baffling to me.
Oh, yeah,
It doesn't confuse me why he did it or why what happened, but it's baffling just not to have him in the
Right.
around.
Yeah. You are a big inspiration to a lot of different artists, musicians, and people as well. Who inspires you? Who's an inspiration to you?
There's so many and writers. I mean, what? Okay, here you go. This is not fame.
Oh, wow.
By Doug Stanhope. Right now, this guy is one of my favorite people in the world. And, I mean, he's really controversial, and a lot of people hate him. But if you get around the way he's saying it, and you actually get to what he's saying, he's the cheat. The cheat,
Wow.
as we say. Yeah, right. He's a comedian, and he never.
He's the truth.
He's the real cheat. He's the real thing. He's living in Bisbee, Arizona, quarantined. He's doing podcasts like once a week or whatever. I'm a fan. I mean, I listen to him all the time. I listen to it today. But yeah, I mean, it's like having especially for somebody who's living alone, who's likes a beer now and then. It's like having guys around that you can relate to. You're just kind of sitting at the table with them. Maybe you're not doing any of the talking, but you're listening in. That's what the podcast is like, and it's not very long. It's not like 3 hours. It's like an hour usually, and it's perfect. You can have a couple beers, sit around and listen to these guys joke about life. So he's a big inspiration right now. You have to have inspirations current. I think you can't like go okay. Well, I have a couple of them. Okay, but so he's one. Who else? There's so many. A lot of comedians right now. I watch a lot of comedians. Joe Rogan.
Okay.
The podcast, Dave Chappelle is like
the
wizard
Dave
of wisdom.
Chappelle is
the wizard of wisdom, man. That guy.
He's my age, so
he's the top. He's what they call GOAT.
I've been watching him for so long, man. He's one of the GOATs, but Richard.
The GOAT, GOAT. It's like, is that greatest of all time?
Yes.
Greatest of all time, the GOAT. That's what they call him, man, and it's true.
You got a lot of greats out here. You got Richard Pryor. You got George Carlin.
Oh yeah.
Guys are, and then he's pulling right from those guys.
Oh, absolutely, and Robin Williams too. I mean, he was sort of an offshoot of Jonathan Winters, maybe. Jonathan Winters was his idol, but Robin took it to the next dimension. He brought it.
Yes, he did. He definitely did. True that. All right. Now, here's a question that I said that I'd ask if I ever got the chance to interview you. Now, you're in a box of your own, and it is, in my opinion, a very selective box. Meaning that you are, how can I say this, not just anything sounds great to you. So, you are particular about what's really good and what's not, which brings me to what I'm about to ask.
Okay.
How do you feel about today's music? Like, what's your take on what things sound like today?
My only criticism really about a lot of music, there's two things. The subject matter.
Okay.
If you're just selling hype, if you're just commercial art itself, it can be that way. You're just selling, just an image. That's not that's not good for anybody. Who needs that? If you have, and the other musical gripe I have are people that continuously don't think they're any good because they can't play as well as the machine. Or they're playing to the machine, so they stifle to a drum machine. It could be anything, but they limit their ability to play by trying to hone in and sound more mechanical. It just doesn't seem that's not musical.
Right.
You can do stuff with machines. That Thomas Dolby is one of my favorite all-time artists.
He worked with George Clinton. George Clinton worked with that guy a lot.
That's so odd. Yeah, actually, I have to check that out. He did a Dan Hicks song called on his album The Flat Earth. Called I Scare Myself. Thomas Dolby did. And so Dan Hicks was a regular at the open mic at the Sweetwater. So I knew Dan personally. But I didn't know, so I mean, oh God, another writer that I really loved and that influenced me a lot was David Byrne, from the Talking Heads.
Yeah.
When I
Oh
saw
yeah. Oh
Stop Making Sense is
yeah.
my all-time
Yeah.
favorite film
Yeah.
concert movie of all time. That I cannot watch that and not feel like dancing, even if, you know,
Mhm.
I don't dance all that.
Yeah, but no,
Gracefully.
that's classic stuff, though. Definitely.
Yeah, but yeah. So I'm not against the machines, but that's the only thing is that it's like I wish there was a machine that could play to me. Humans can do it, and I can play a song and then send it to a drummer, and he can
Mhm.
play to it later on. But as a
Right.
machine, it's harder to get a machine to do it because I'm not going to be perfect, right? So they're going to
Right.
have to play to me. So that's what I'm saying. It's like, and plus we people, I think it's better to get a person to do it if you
Mhm.
can because that a drummer, you start using,
You gotta have them flaws and them mistakes.
you got to
That's
have,
good music.
yeah,
I like the raw sound. I
you
like.
don't want to run out of drummers.
Yeah. Yeah. I
Drummers are
like.
going to be, you're only going to have a machine to drum if nobody's going to learn how to drum because everybody's using machines, right? We want
Absolutely.
drummers, drum circles and stuff. I love that kind of thing.
Yeah. Yes. Definitely. A lot
Yeah.
of the music that I like is more of the stuff that they do in the studio before they master it and mix it down. I love the rawness of it.
Right, right.
I don't always like the polished stuff all the time.
Well, blues is a good
Sometimes it takes away
example.
from it.
Yeah, in blues, you don't hear it in blues very often. There's no techno blues really. I mean, I did a little
Not at
bit of it just to
all.
see what it sounded like
Not at all.
last year, but for the most part, yeah. I mean, because you have to have that feel. You have to have
It's
everybody
got
working
to come
together.
from, yeah, it's got to come from a feeling, like Jimi Hendrix once said. He was like, they want me to smash up my guitar every night, but I have to feel like doing it. I can't just go on stage and set it on fire.
Right.
Certain feelings. So,
That would be another guy I would have liked to have met.
wow.
Hendrix, yeah.
Yeah.
Talk about a genius.
Yeah, super genius, way ahead of his time.
Whoa.
Oh my goodness, man. Okay, but on to the next question now. What advice would you give to someone who felt indifferent about yesterday's music, meaning classic music, in comparison to one who favors what today's music sounds like?
Well, anybody who thinks that all the music that's out there right now isn't today's music, they're brainwashed by the media. I mean,
Okay.
if you think that there's a cycle every 6 months, there might be some people that are paid to recognize these things or create these ideas. But really, recorded music's only about 200 some years old. Not even
Okay.
that, I don't think. Edison invented the phonograph, so it's all pretty new. I mean, when you think about Dylan, I mean, I was compared growing up in the 80s and doing my music in the 80s. I've always been compared to the guys from the 60s, right?
Right.
Wow, you sound just like Neil Young or Tom Waits or I mean, I've been compared in one article to Tom Waits, Bob Dylan, Neil Young, and James Taylor because they all sound alike, right? So anyway, no, but
Well,
that's what
no,
I'm saying.
they sound different.
Right.
They
No, I know, and I can make a lot of James, but I mean, I'm just saying, they compared me to them. Now, who did they compare those guys to? Well, there weren't that many. When Dylan came up in the early '60s, there wasn't a whole lot of people behind him that sounded anything like him because there wasn't a whole lot of recorded music at
Right.
that
Right.
point. There was a lot less.
Mhm.
Right? Thousands of artists less than from the 60s to the 80s.
Mhm.
Hundreds of thousands of artists less. I mean, if you want to talk about everybody who was recording at that time. So, yeah, so they compared Dylan to Woody Guthrie, of course, but they also compared him to Dylan was freaking out. He was there comparing him to the Prophets. There's a church of Bob Dylan, now, I mean, yeah, so I mean that's the thing. See, if you sound, I'm not going to get compared to those guys because I sound like too much like Dylan or Neil or these other guys, and I was influenced by those guys. I mean, I used to joke. I used to say, I sound like a Xerox copy of, it's like of some of these artists because they influenced me. It's okay. It's okay. It's okay to be influenced by good. Just make sure your influences are good. I mean, you don't. I mean, who wants to see that? A Milli Vanilli reincarnated. I mean, nobody. You know what I'm saying?
we might be seeing that now and not even knowing it.
Absolutely.
It's so flooded out here. But you for the most part, you sound like you, and that's the thing about you. You have you created your own sound and your own category for that. And that's you, and you sound like that, and they sound like that, and
yeah, I don't think about it or worry about it anymore. I don't I used to try to. Well, I was hired once to be James Taylor at a birthday party. I learned an hour and a half of James. I already knew like a half an hour of James Taylor music, but I had to learn another hour worth or whatever. I mean, I just
Wow.
worked on it, because I mean, it wasn't like I was getting paid all this money, but I mean, it was a challenge, you know.
Mhm.
And so they brought the woman who like she was in her 20s, I think, and brought her out blindfolded, right?
Mhm.
And I was thinking Shower the People
Mhm.
when they brought her out, and she was blindfolded, and she had the biggest smile on her face. And I was singing it as close to James Taylor as I could possibly get. You know, I've been working on it
Wow.
for weeks,
Yeah.
and she undoes the blindfold, and she sees, a semi-overweight guy with hair, the opposite of James Taylor,
Okay.
and her face goes. She looks so disappointed, and I
Oh
was
wow.
never so happy to disappoint someone in my life because she thought I was James Taylor until she took
Okay.
off the blindfold, and then, you can see, James Taylor is here, and it's, oh
Wow.
God, and I was like all smiles, and I was like, yeah, and they were all laughing, because everybody knew she was fooled, and that was all that's what I wanted to do. I didn't know they were going to blindfold her, but that was so cool. Never been so
Wow.
happy to disappoint a person.
Wow. That's. From my last question,
Yeah.
to sum it up, how would you describe your journeys, adventures, and experiences along the way? And if you could change anything, what would it be?
Well, I think for the most part, you have to if you're gonna you do it for the passion, because you love it. Don't do it
Mhm.
for the carrot. I mean, if you're gonna do it because you see it more as a business,
Mhm.
and that you think, oh, this is a good way to make a quick buck. A hit song.
Oh,
All I have to do is get on the computer and do a few samples here, and get really beautiful people to sing, and then we can auto tune them. And if that's why you're doing it, you're just in the way. There's so many true artists out there, really good ones that needed exposure, and there's all these mannequins, musical
yes, it is.
mannequins, and that's what I guess that's what we can call them. I've
It's so
never.
flooded and saturated, man. It's just so.
Yeah,
So
it's so, it's just commercial art. Not all commercial art's bad. I mean, the Beatles, Dylan, that's commercial art, but music they didn't start off that way. They didn't go, oh wow, all these people are banking, and so I'm going to jump in on the,
right on the
I'm going down
bandwagon.
with the gold
Yeah,
rush, right? No,
yeah.
they're not like that at all. There's so many good artists right now on the internet. There's I've never met these people, but I mean, I just admire their work. There's Rosanna Eastman I heard her sing a song
Mhm.
on the internet, and I mean, I started tearing up, and if that
Wow.
happens,
Yeah.
I will listen to that song for weeks if it
Mhm.
happens, I mean, I just won't stop.
Mhm.
And she's more of a pop singer, but I guess she had just lost her dad or something. I don't
Oh
know the
wow.
details.
Oh,
I
sorry.
don't know the details, but I mean, I
Oh
did tell
man.
her that how much it had moved me, and so she thanked me, and then later on I learned, that had happened. But
Right.
yeah, so and Samantha Grimes is another artist that
Yeah. Yes. Yes.
her. Yeah, she is, man, she's good, and she's so. I love the way she does the home. Everything these people are doing. Everybody's doing the home thing now. The
Mhm.
live,
Well, yeah. That's
which is
all of
great.
this started out of that. All of this started out of isolation.
Yeah. No,
Um.
well, no, they did. Some people were doing it live from their gigs usually.
Mhm.
I did a couple of those,
Mhm.
But yeah, as far as everybody doing the PayPal thing at home, yeah, and I think it's not. I'm just so glad it exists. I'm so grateful for it, and
Right.
it's
Yeah.
allowing me to see some incredible artists.
Oh
There's
yeah. Yeah. Definitely. Definitely. That's what
this
it's about. Being able to see some brilliant artists. Yeah.
Leon Santiago is another singer songwriter. Now I've known him from Arizona, but I never really listened to a lot of his stuff until a couple of years ago when
Okay.
he was in Puerto Rico during the hurricanes and stuff. And
Oh wow.
when
Yeah.
I talked to him, I think he was still there, and he was just coming back. It was a couple of years ago,
Mhm.
and he gave me a link to some of the stuff. And then he's been doing the live stuff too. And man, this guy's got a voice that it is unlike any other voice, man. And he writes great songs, and it's like hearing Van Morrison for the first time or something. I mean,
Oh
it's that
man, I'm a
unique.
Van Morrison fan as well. Oh man,
Whoa.
Domino, um,
Yeah.
man, Into the Mystic.
Oh yeah.
He
I
had a
did
lot
both
of
those,
that.
covered both those recently on
The
my
Moon Dance.
couch covers song. And I just did a bunch. I did Domino. I did, yeah, Into the Mystic, and
Yeah, Street Choir. That album was a really nice one too.
Yeah, yeah. Well, I used to do Van Morrison mostly on like St. Patty's Day gigs, you know,
Uh-huh.
because he's Irish, and you know, I didn't know. I mean, I think I did Danny Boy once. There's, you know,
Okay.
I always played a lot of Irish bars, and
All right.
on St. Patty's Day they'd all like want me in, and I didn't know why because I'm not like I don't know the Irish Rover. I knew some old traditional Irish tunes just because I played in those bars, and I
Okay.
learned them from those people that were in the bars. You know, musicians that were hanging out there. Oh, you got something to show me? You know, Irish Rover. You know, it's like okay, you know.
Oh man.
One, two, three. No. Anyway, so yeah, and then but Ireland 32 in San Francisco. You know, I was hosting the open mic there, and there is Jody Guthrie, who is Arlo Guthrie's
Oliver
brother,
Guthrie's brother. Yeah.
Woody Guthrie's
Wow.
son, other son, the one that nobody knows about. He lived in
Hmm.
Albany, California, and I met him when I was a kid again, and like a
Now I
16
remember
year
you
old.
told me that story too. I was like, wow, man.
Yeah, Jody Guthrie. Nobody knows about that guy. I don't know why he's not in the media more. He's probably still alive. I hope so. But
Yeah.
yeah, what a guy. Anyway, yeah, I used to talk to him a lot, you know, about his
Okay.
brother and his dad. And
Hmm.
he was really scared he was going to get Huntington's disease. I mean, all his whole
Oh.
life, that was his biggest. I mean, it was almost debilitating because his father, of course, that's what he died of, right? So anyway,
Okay.
it's a
Well,
hereditary disease. But and then there's a band called Scary Pockets. I don't know any of these people. This is absolutely, you know, I don't have any connection to the Scary Pockets, but I think they're just a collective of different musicians. But
mhm.
everything they have done that I've seen has been phenomenal. I mean, over
Wow.
the top phenomenal. Like
Definitely.
Chill's phenomenal. And I've only seen like 4 different things they've done,
Okay.
and it's always different musicians in different ways, you know, groups. But oh my God, that's an incredible group of people. Uh, there's Glade Wilson who does cover songs in Arizona, but he's doing some great podcasts kind of
Okay.
stuff. Stan Rogers was a huge influence on me, and he died in 1983 in a plane
Wow.
wreck at 33
I'm
years
sorry to
old.
hear
He
that.
wrote
Wow.
the best sea chanties in the world.
Okay.
He's from Canada. I know I'm
Man, you
rambling, but
definitely
I
got a
have these
lot of
notes here.
influence.
Okay, I'm not even gonna lie. I have these notes. What I'm trying to do. I'm trying to get out, name drop all these people, dead and alive. I'm not trying. You know, I'm not pandering. I'm just like I just have all these people that I wanted to mention.
We may
I
have to
don't do a
edit
lot of. I
down
don't
some
do a
of this.
lot of these. You know, I don't do a lot of these interviews. So,
Okay, no, that's cool though. But
yeah, we'll probably run out of time. So,
yeah, we may. But I don't know.
I'll talk to you as long as you want, though. I got plenty of time.
I'll keep in as much as I can because yeah, I want to. It's only supposed to be a 30-minute interview, but
Have we gone past? We probably have. I'm
we
not even
might. But
looking.
if we do, we do. If we don't, either way it goes, it'll still be a good.
You could do 2 parts. You know, maybe another one later someday or whatever. You
Yeah,
know.
I keep everything. So,
All
but
right.
all right, man, it was really. I'm enjoying the interview. I really am. This
Yeah,
is
me
really
too.
great.
And I wanted to tell you, your show. I just love the show. It's like it's so refreshing to see just good material without
Mhm.
any kind of confines. You know, everything from poetry to jazz
Oh
to
yeah, yeah, yeah,
gospel to rap to R&B to. I mean,
yeah.
you're covering folk. And you're so open, and your enthusiasm is infectious. I mean,
Thank you.
that's what I tell people when they ask me. When I'm telling about like with your show. You know, I talk about it. You know, tell people about it and share it. That's another thing, people. Dare to share. If you like something out there, share it because that's the new
Yeah,
distribution, man.
definitely,
That we
definitely.
are our own distribution. It used to be
Yeah, yeah,
different,
we
but
are.
now
We are.
I'm a distributor. I try to distribute music to everyone, and a lot of people don't like me for it anymore because I send them too much stuff. I have Tourette's of the share button sometimes,
No, but that's
but
okay. You got to get it out there. I mean,
yeah, I
that's
mean, and I'm not just sharing my stuff. I'm sharing.
oh yeah,
If
yeah.
I realize, this is
That
we
was my
people
whole. Yeah,
can
we do.
dictate
We do. That was my
what's
whole point in
popular.
creating this platform. So
Absolutely,
we could all be heard and
perfect.
shared. There's so many brilliant people out here. And I always say I refuse to stay in a box. So we
Yeah,
want to. I want everything that I listened to growing up of these genres are on my show and they're on the group and that's what it's about. And with that being said, people, this concludes our show. It has been a pleasure talking to David Grossman, an amazing artist and a great person. It's been a pleasure to have you on.
peace and
Thank you
love,
so
man.
much. Thank
As
you.
Ringo would say, peace and love, peace and love.
Peace and love. Okay, with that being said, we'll see you guys later.
All right.
Okay. Okay, everyone, tune in next week as we bring you more brilliant interviews from your favorite indie artists. We also got those hot written interviews as well. Join our Facebook Strange Brew Media group if you're an indie artist and got something to say. Subscribe to our platforms as well. I am Jamal Jupitur, and until next time.